All right, today we are watching a program called Earth Satellites, Explorers of Outer Space. And this comes again from Encyclopedia Britannica. Sorry, I feel like we've been watching a lot of Encyclopedia Britannica lately, but you know what? They're pretty good. And this was published all the way back in 1957. So Earth Satellites, Explorers of Outer Space from 1957. And the notable thing about this date is this is long before the space race, even the beginning of the space race, really. The space race really got started in like 61 or 62. Kennedy isn't even president yet, so there is really like no thought being put towards the American space race, or at least there's no thought being put towards like getting to the moon at this point. So we should be getting a perspective of Americans' view of outer space and exploration before we ever actually partook in that sort of stuff. So this should be really fascinating. So let's dive in, shall we? Yeah, shout out to Encyclopedia Britannica, really. Like, they are the real ones here. Like, so many of the things I've watched on this channel have been from them that, like, they really deserve it. So yeah, shout out to them one more time. Oh, look at this title screen. Earth Satellites, Explorers of Space. See, I don't quite understand the title yet, because Earth's satellites, that's the moon, right? But then Explorers of Space, I guess we're talking maybe about other satellites. Maybe we're not going to the moon yet, but maybe we had launched satellites? I don't think so still. I think this is even before like artificial satellites. 1957. I don't know. Note the font is just very plain. I don't know. Like we're not talking about India or like one of those places, so it doesn't have like a crazy font. It's just a very plain font. All right, produced by Encyclopedia Britannica, blah, 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 in collaboration with Willy Ley, writer and consultant on rockets and space travel. Dang, I wonder what Willy Ley did to get to be the consultant on rockets and space travel all the way back in 1957. Like, what experience could he have had with rockets and space travel to be the consultant? You know, I don't know. I'm curious. He must have had some experience, but what was it, you know? And then down here, Hal Capel is the producer. All right. Hopefully, I think that's everyone important.
In October 1957, the world entered the space age.
Oh, okay. October 1957. Is that when the Russians launched Sputnik? Is that what we're talking about? I'm pretty sure Sputnik was the first thing humans ever put in space, and that was by the Soviets. So maybe this is actually the very beginning of the space race we're watching right now. That'd be cool.
At that time, a multi-stage rocket took off from a launching site in Russia.
In Russia, yeah. All right. So we're talking about Sputnik, I think. So this is so funny that we're not actually watching video because it's from Russia. We're just looking at like still paintings. Like that is funny. Like it's funny because this sort of event in America would have been filmed like from 10 different angles, or if not more. And it's honestly possible that the Russians also filmed them launching this rocket, but I just don't know if we have that footage. Please, does anyone know if there are like Russian archives that have all that sort of footage? Because that would be really fascinating. Yeah, that's so funny how like during this time we literally we didn't have any footage to show of space. So in order to talk about it, the only thing we have to show is paintings of space. I think that's so funny because that's a limitation of this time period that would very soon not exist anymore. So it's special that we're getting to see like the period while we're talking about space before we were actually going to space. It's just this program occupies a very interesting moment in the story of space exploration, really. This is also a very pertinent thing for us to be talking about, considering what we watched last week in the Blue Channel, which was about Sealab. So that was about ocean exploration around the 1960s, whereas this is about space exploration from around the 1960s. So it's the two different fields of exploration that were taking place at the same time during this period.
As each rocket stage burned out, the next one fired.
Dude, the dramatic zoom out from that shot, that's just, I love these old camera animation shots. Like, these are real funny.
The last one launched the world's first artificial satellite.
That's so funny that this is what the first artificial satellite is. I mean, I guess it's just like a metal ball with computers inside and like antenna, but it's just like, it's too simple.
called the Sputnik 1.
Sputnik 1, yeah. You know what? That's not even a pat on the back. Like, everyone should know Sputnik by now. Russia launches Earth satellite. It's up 560 miles at 18,000 miles per hour. See, that's really funny. That's like, that must have been such a moment in world history when Russia launched something into space for the first time. Like, that must have been really, yeah, a seismic shift in like what the world was focused on. The Reds fire the moon into the sky. So it's funny to see like all the exaggeration or the hyperbolic language that people reported this story in. It's just, again, that also lends you into the mindset of the people who are experiencing this news. Moon beeps heard round the world. Moscow jubilant. That's like, Moscow jubilant. That's a really funny phrase. But like, all of this, like, yeah, these are the headlines that people read when like pretty much the most world-shattering piece of news came by. Like, I don't know what else would have amazed people more than the fact that we sent something out into space back then. Like, this seems like something that was so pivotal in like the world's attitude towards like space technology.
The early satellites, both Russian and American, confirmed the work of scientists in many parts of...
Like, not only is this program a good preservation of like space exploration, it's a good preservation of our use of language and our perception of this activity of space exploration during then. It's hard to explain, but it's just like there's so much to be learned from this.
The first American satellite was called the Explorer 1.
Interesting. All right. So by this time, we also had sent up a satellite into space. That's fascinating because this was supposed to be from 1957. I'm not quite sure if that's true, but that'd be interesting to know when exactly this came from. So when did we send Explorer 1 into space? Probably 58, I'd imagine. If 57 was Sputnik, I can't imagine it took us less than a year to send up our own satellite. Maybe, but I don't know.
Its performance, and that of other satellites, was predicted by applying natural laws which scientists have learned through the years.
You know, it's funny that I knew Sputnik, but I didn't know Explorer 1. You know, like I have no explanation for that. Sputnik just seems like the actual notable one of the two. But I guess they were both equally notable. It's not like the US took technologies from the Soviets. Like, we created Explorer satellite the same way the Russians created Sputnik, like using nothing but our own scraps. But only one is really worth memorizing. What does Sputnik mean? I don't even know. It must mean something in Russian, though. Like, Explorer 1, I know what Explorer means. Like, that's not just a name, that's a phrase or a word. So I'm curious what Sputnik means in that sense.
What are some of these laws? Surely you've done this. As long as the ball goes fast enough, it's held out by...
I love the kid's face. The kid's actually enjoyable face. Like, he's shocked by what he's learning right in front of him. Like, this is the face of a kid that was not told to have fun doing this by the director. This is a kid who's actually like, wow, this is pretty fun. You know? How old is this kid? This kid, what, 57? He's probably 70, 80. He's probably 80 now. Dang.
...at speed and pulls the string tight. The faster the ball whirls, the stronger the pull on the string.
See, this is why we reviewed angular momentum, right? That's what it's called? Yeah, angular momentum, because of this exact thing.
An Earth satellite is a free-moving body circling the Earth.
Dang, hang on. One note that I just want to give to this art direction before we even move on is all the reflections of the stars that are illustrated on the planet. It looks like the Earth is like a ball of water and it has all these stars' reflections on it. It's funny that we thought the Earth was covered in star reflections from space because we didn't really know what Earth looked like from space. This is a clear illustration of the fact that we had not been to space by this point and we were just guessing on what the Earth looked like. And we thought star reflections were like really a visually notable thing to be seen from space. That's interesting.
It is held out by its speed and is held in by an imaginary string, the force of gravity. The closer to the Earth, the faster the satellite must go to overcome the increased pull of gravity.
Yeah, I feel like this is like Space 101. Like, I'm glad this is like an early Blue that we're watching. Not the earliest. I should have watched this sooner, I think, but like, I'm glad we're starting with this. I guess the first space thing I ever watched was the first Blue, Who's Out There. So this is, I guess, a follow-up to that in a sense.
If you don't whirl the ball fast enough, eventually it drops. Let's look at this another way. Suppose there's a tremendously high mountain above the Earth's atmosphere where there's no friction with air. Suppose that on it there's a gun.
This is a very American metaphor we're building right here.
A shot will soon be pulled to Earth by gravity, even though its speed is not reduced by air friction.
I do really appreciate this, though. This is like a good way of explaining this to people, especially kids. This was probably being shown to kids in a classroom. Again, were kids just watching programs like this every day? Because there are so many programs like this. It seems like there was something to watch for every day of school. This is a good teaching diagram for a child. I feel like children will understand this. Like, this is a hard concept to teach kids, so I appreciate the visual aspect of it. I also feel like kids would definitely be paying attention to a giant gun on the world's tallest mountain. Just the positioning of it is interesting to a kid from back then. At least I imagine. I don't know.
If we use more powder, the shot will travel farther before it's pulled to Earth.
See, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like as a kid, though, gravity still doesn't quite make sense. Like, why doesn't it just continue to go straight? Why does it even curve around the Earth at all? Obviously, I understand gravity, I know why, but like, if you don't know that, I can see how this would be a little confusing.
But a charge that's just big enough will send the shot just fast enough so that the curve of its drop is exactly the same as the curve of the Earth.
That does make sense, though. I don't know if it's only me, but like I feel like I understand it based on this. Like, even if I were a kid, I would get that you have to throw something so fast it doesn't fall back into the Earth, which is impressive. It's impressive that we're educating kids on how to send an object into orbit all the way back in 1957 or 1958. Like, that's pretty wild.
Since we've assumed that we're above air friction, speed isn't reduced. Therefore, the shot returns to the point where it was fired with the same speed it started with, and so continues to circle the Earth indefinitely as a satellite.
I also love how like the central axis of the spinning of the Earth right here is like the middle of Western Europe. Like, that's not really where the Earth spins from, but I guess for the purpose of this diagram, it's fine.
If still more powder is added to the charge, the satellite goes so fast that it moves away from the Earth for a while, but then is pulled back and keeps repeating this path.
I feel like they should have shown it traveling slower when it was further away and speeding back up, because that's really how things orbit in ellipses like that. Like, they speed up when they get close to the object and they slow down as they get further away, and then they speed back up as they go over that tight corner. So, I don't know. Again, we didn't even quite know that back then, so the only reason I know that is because I make space videos sometimes for a living as well, and I have to animate the moving of bodies around other, masses. So I know the relative speeds at which things orbit around other objects, but I can understand why they didn't include that detail here.
This is an elliptical orbit instead of a circular orbit. If the gun isn't exactly horizontal, the same thing happens. Only a horizontal launch at a precise speed produces a circular orbit.
That's interesting. I feel like that makes sense just like on paper, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we launch vertically. We don't even launch horizontally. It doesn't even make sense to launch stuff horizontally. So I don't know. I feel like there's a bit of nuance or a bit of complexity there that, again, we're not showing to our school children. Understandably, it's just like I'm trying to figure it out in my head, and I'm thinking there's more there than just what we're learning. But again, this is still good for educating children with.
Now, instead of a gun, let's use a rocket to launch our satellite. It's a very big rocket.
This is actually so funny because I just started reading on an audiobook whenever I go on walks. What's it called? Oh, From Earth to the Moon. It's by Jules Verne. It's Jules Verne's traveling to the moon story. And in that book, they actually use a cannon. Like that's how the whole story starts, is it's Americans with these cannons and they actually want to send people to space using a cannon. I'm pretty sure that's how they did it in that original film about going to space too. I think that was actually based on Jules Verne's book too. So they put themselves in a cannon, and that's the classic image of the moon with the bullet in its eye. That's where that all comes from. So it's funny in this program that we're talking about guns as if they were rockets in the same way that Jules Verne and people, science fiction writers back then, kind of thought guns would lead into space travel like that. That's an interesting connection there. I guess that only makes sense though if you also are just starting to read From Earth to the Moon by Jules Verne.
Since there are no mountains high enough to reach above the Earth's atmosphere, the rocket itself must go that high in order to launch its satellite. Just how high is this? We've learned a great deal about the structure of the Earth's atmosphere.
So this is a cool little diagram as well. We can see like the aurora, some clouds, are these chemtrails or are these meteors or something? I don't know, but this is cool. I always love diagrams like this.
6 to 10 miles we call the troposphere, which means turbulent.
Hang on, so there's the troposphere, the stratosphere. Oh, there's another one I think though. What are the other, I can't remember the other parts of the sky. There's the stratosphere, but there's something else. There's the ionosphere, but that's like way up there, right?
This is the dense churning layer close to Earth.
The troposphere, the stratosphere, I don't know, the ionosphere is the only thing I'm coming up with.
It thins out to become the stratosphere.
Yeah, stratosphere, that's not a pat on the back either. That's a pretty standard term in science.
A stratified region that extends about 50 miles up.
And then this last one, I'm pretty sure this last one is the ionosphere. I don't know if that's the word that they are going to use for it, though.
Then we reach the ionosphere.
The ionosphere, there you go. Wow, all right. I'm actually happy with that now. I displayed that I know the different parts of the sky. I'm glad.
An even thinner region, which extends some 150 miles up. Beyond this, single molecules and atoms thin out into outer space. Earth satellites can take various forms.
Earth's satellites can take various forms. See, like, what are we really talking about here? We're not talking about the moon, right? We're talking about objects that we can put into Earth's orbit, or are we talking about natural satellites? I'm pretty sure we're talking about artificial satellites here.
The Explorer was encased in a rocket shell, which also included fuel for the final burst of speed.
Dang, hang on. So this is footage of like the rocket that took Explorer, one of the first satellites into space, like the first American satellite. This is like pretty much the first American rocket that we're looking at, right? That's what we're looking at here, the first American rocket. Wow, that's incredible. Like this is history right here.
At its base, it was attached to other rockets, which would carry it to the necessary height. The Vanguard satellite was shaped like a ball spun out of metal.
The Vanguard satellite, that's interesting. See, I like to think I know a little bit about the timeline of the space race, but all the individual machines that we built or all the individual instruments or satellites or whatever, I know very little about. So it's interesting to hear about that. The Vanguard satellite. See, I've heard of Explorer satellites, but I have not heard of Vanguard satellite. So that's like another little glimpse into like the minutia of this time period of space exploration.
Shaped like a ball spun out of metal. The first Vanguard satellite was not this big.
Wow, that is one shiny sheet of metal. Oh, it's a shame you can't see the camera in this reflection though. That's like, again, that's impressive camera work right there, that we have a reflective dome and you still can't see the camera. Like, that requires some forethought, let me tell you.
The satellite shell is carefully fabricated to contain a complex assortment of devices for getting information and sending it back to Earth.
Dude, it's so crazy that like what we even put in these satellites, like what even are these things? You know, like this looks like something you'd find that like falls out of a car. You know, I have no idea what this would be inside of a satellite. Oh, wow, this is cool. I understand this part. This is a computer chip of some kind, like a motherboard. I have no idea the terminology, but like this is like the brain of the computer, it looks like. Wow, that's cool. You know, I know very little about this sort of stuff. Like, I really am not a computer kind of guy, but like, I hope there are some people watching that are just fascinated by this, because there is probably a lot of really interesting stuff to pick apart about this computer chip right here. Like, this is the computer chip that we put into space, you know, like that's, oh my God, that's so interesting. You know, I don't actually know much about what I'm looking at, but I'm sure if you do know what you're looking at, there are some interesting aspects of this.
This is part of the brain of the Vanguard satellite. Its many electronic circuits are powered by solar batteries.
Solar batteries, that's interesting. Not solar cells, solar batteries. So I guess they're charging up batteries with solar cells? I don't know. I don't get what a solar battery really means.
Solar batteries produce electricity from the action of sunlight.
So a solar cell then, I guess. Maybe they're just using battery as like an old-fashioned sort of term.
They operate the measuring devices and radio transmitters inside the satellite. The information, which is broadcast back to Earth, is recorded for...
That's so funny that satellites were just big metal balls with a bunch of like science instruments inside. Like, I guess they still are. It's just like, I don't know, like there's something so enigmatic about a steel ball like this, you know? Like, it's so interesting. It's like modern satellites look like what they're supposed to do, but because there's like no character to this like shiny metal ball, it's so mysterious, you know?
Further study. This is the brain of the Explorer satellite.
Wow, wow, we're getting to see like inside the Explorer satellite. Like, this is really, really cool footage we're getting to see right now. Like, this is, again, historical technology right here.
Different types of measuring devices are sent up in various satellites, depending on the information scientists are trying to get at the time.
That's so funny that they're assembling everything by hand too. Like, even though like we know we needed to be precise about everything, like there's still just hand construction as well. Hand assembly, I guess I should say.
Here is the Explorer satellite, carefully covered, being hoisted to the top of the Jupiter C rocket for installation.
Oh, wow, hang on. So that's interesting. So that's not even the rocket. That's like the late stage rocket maybe, or like the secondary rocket, but like the thing in the background, that's the actual rocket. Holy moly. That's crazy.
The first satellite launchings used multi-stage rockets. That is, a number of rockets fastened together, each one firing after the other has burned out, leaving the burned out rocket behind.
I feel like multi-stage rockets is just like the subject of another program. Like, that's too complicated for this. Like, I understand why they're kind of skimming over that. That's just like, that's a whole physics explanation right there. You know, I do probably have a program somewhere in my collection that explains multi-stage rockets, but it looks like we're not going to get there quite in this program.
This rocket uses liquid fuel in its large first stage, and solid fuel for the other stages.
Liquid fuel in its first stage, and then solid fuel in its second stage. I understand liquid fuel. They're using like liquid oxygen or something. But solid fuel, I've never heard of a solid fuel before. I can't even imagine what that would be. Like, I'm thinking of like a plank of wood or something, you know, not like a space, not like something you would use for a rocket. Like, what is their solid fuel? I'm curious now.
To enable the fuel to burn at high altitudes, the first stage uses liquid oxygen.
Yeah, liquid oxygen. There you go. That's not quite a pat on the back either, but I am still proud of myself for knowing that.
Which is extremely cold.
So what are they using for the solid fuel? Solid oxygen? That would be nuts. I don't even think that's possible.
Personnel should evacuate the area at this time.
Takeoff of a rocket like this requires a careful checkout procedure taking many hours, called a countdown.
A countdown. I love how he had to explain to us what a countdown was. Like they don't know like liftoff yet. In my head, I feel like in the head of like every American child, like there's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. Like that phrase is in everyone's head, or liftoff or whatever. Like that's a countdown. But like back then they didn't really have a familiarity with that sort of thing because they were the ones who were pioneering that sort of stuff. So it's funny that they needed to explain what the countdown would even be, I inherently understand that you have to count down to launch a rocket, but I guess kids back then didn't know why you needed to wait to make sure everything was on properly, It's funny that we have that explanation here.
Requires a careful checkout procedure taking many hours called a countdown. It is conducted from a nearby blockhouse.
See, again, this is so cool that we're getting to see like the control room. I don't even know if this is NASA or something else, but like the fact that we're getting to see like inside the rooms that the scientists would use to like control these devices or whatever. Like it's so lucky that we have footage of this sort of stuff.
Now, 10, 9, 8, ignition,
Do they say blast off or do they say lift off? Like I'm hoping for a blast off. I think they'll say lift off though, but I don't know. Let's see. What do they say? What is the phrase that they say for the very first? I don't know if this is the very first American rocket launch, but this is an early American rocket launch we're about to watch. So what's the terminology that they use?
4, 3, 2, 1, 0, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Dang, nobody's saying we have liftoff. Dang, like I feel like I've been lied to now.
8, 9, 10.
This is, again, incredible footage. Just, I cannot emphasize how lucky we are that we're getting to watch this sort of stuff. This really is like the advancement of like human civilization that we're watching right here. Like the very earliest steps that mankind made to getting into space. And what's crazy is these moments will only become more celebrated the deeper we get into space. These moments will only increase in their sentimental value, cultural sentimental value, the longer we partake in space exploration. This is getting cooler every single day because we are advancing even further from this every single day as well. There's so much to say. It's so cool.
The early stages of the rocket's flight are tracked by ground instruments.
Dang, look at this satellite. See, like, that's what's so amazing. Like, we had all this technology, but it was just there. Like, we had just figured out how to make, like, satellite dishes like this. We were on the cusp of a new technological era at this time, and it's so crazy to see what satellites and satellite dishes looked like before then.
Since we can't take a motion picture camera along into outer space, let's observe an imaginary 3-stage launching by using...
Wow, this is a cool telescope, though. This looks like a telescope with film mounted to the top of it. It looks like they're filming. If you see these 2 circles on top of the telescope, that looks like film reels. One for it to unwind and the other for it to wind into. So it looks like they're filming whatever they're looking at right here. Or at least they're capable of filming whatever they're looking at.
The fuel in the large first stage burns out after about 2.5 minutes, sending the rocket very high.
I like that. Sending a rocket very high. Very unprecise.
Then the first stage is left behind as the second stage takes over.
See, I said this explanation deserves its own video, but they're actually doing a really good job of explaining how it works and why it works. Like, I'm actually pretty impressed that this is making sense to the school children inside of my brain.
In thinner atmosphere with less gravity, the second stage greatly increases the speed and height of the rocket. This stage often contains the guiding devices that put the rocket into the correct path for launching the satellite.
That's so funny. I thought this was like a miniature, but like it is a miniature, but I wonder how they're getting this like flame effect. Like it looks like a cloth that they're like blowing in the wind or something. It's a funny little art technique.
Now the nose cone is released. It protected the satellite against the extreme heat of air friction. A motor makes the
Dude,
satellite.
I love the shots of just the nose cones in space drifting away. Like, there's something so funny about the extra effort that went into creating those. Even though, like, knowing outer space, there would have been no friction for them to flobble around like that. You know, like they would have just like separated and then drifted away. They wouldn't have like shaken or stirred away or anything. It's just so much effort went into making that shot, which wasn't even accurate.
Satellite spin to give it stability. With the rocket at the necessary height, the final stage fires briefly to produce the great speed needed for orbit.
I wonder if this is like the earliest attempt at teaching this concept like through visual media. Like I have to imagine there were other ways people learned about this, especially at NASA. Like people must have been talking and planning this sort of stuff out. But in terms of like actual media production for the consumption by like a general audience, this might be like one of the earliest explanations of this process. Maybe the earliest, who knows? It's just like we have to understand that as well, that this is very early days for space exploration. Like it's one thing to have this explanation after we've gone to space and done all this exploration, but it's another thing to have all this before we've done any of that. Like this explanation is coming from 1957, 1958 about, and we wouldn't put people into space until the mid to late 60s. So there's like 5 to 10 years before any of this is actually practiced by people. It's just, it's incredible. It's incredible that we had all this knowledge before doing all this too. I mean, it makes sense for us to know how to launch a rocket before trying to launch a rocket. It's just like, it never fails to impress me how much we knew before doing this sort of stuff.
The satellite is then ejected, and if all has gone well, it goes into orbit. With the rocket.
That was an impressive shot. That was like a good perspective shot. A lot of these have just been 2D perspective shots, but that was an actual 3D thing that came towards the camera and then went past it. That was a good shot. I liked that.
Rocket casing trailing it.
Oh dang, we get another almost identical shot. They heard me. They knew I liked that shot a lot, so they gave us another one. Nice.
How high must a satellite go to stay in orbit? At a minimum of 150 miles up, air friction will bring it down in several weeks. At
Several weeks? That's crazy how it would be falling back to Earth for weeks. Like you threw something in the air so high that it spent weeks falling back to the Earth. Like that is, again, I know what we're doing here is even more insane than that, but like that just helps illustrate how insane what we're doing here really is.
At 500 miles or more, it might well stay up for centuries.
That's crazy. If it's like literally falling to Earth for centuries. I mean, I guess that's what orbiting really means, but like that's just nuts. I guess all orbits will decay eventually, but there's something about it taking weeks to fall back to the surface that's just throwing me for a loop.
Our first satellites have shown that the orbits must be higher than we thought at first because of unexpected air density at high altitudes.
That's funny. That's funny how we thought the atmosphere had less air than it actually ended up having. That's like, again, like we're learning so much about the world and everything during this time.
How fast must a satellite go? This depends on its distance from the Earth. The Moon, our only natural satellite, is about 250,000 miles away.
Actually, I'm pretty sure we have other smaller satellites as well. I'm pretty sure we just named one recently. But for these purposes, yeah, we only have one satellite, the Moon. I hate when people leave comments on my videos like that. Like, actually, we just recently, like, yeah, this was made in the 50s, so they don't know about those yet. Like, I should just shut up.
And travels at the comparatively slow speed of about 2,200 miles an hour. Closer to the Earth, where the gravity pull is greater, a satellite must go faster. At about 25,000 miles out, a speed of 7,500 miles an hour is needed.
See, this is, I feel like, the weakness of these sorts of programs, is when they just start throwing numbers at us, because, like, I didn't listen to a single one of those numbers. Like, maybe they could have showed it on screen, and I would have got it a little bit more, but, like, numbers for numbers' sake just is not helpful, especially for, I think, children. Like I guess you can just say a lot, like kids will understand a lot, but if you say 70,000, 200,000, blah, 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 it just jumbles into nothingness.
This satellite will circle the Earth once every day. At 1,100 miles out, a satellite must go about 16,000 miles an hour to stay in orbit.
Like, is that even faster than the last one they said? Like, physically, it should be faster, but like, I just don't even know what number he said previously. So, like, I don't know. Again, like saying numbers out loud doesn't really do things most of the time. That's something that I've learned from doing YouTube as well. Like, numbers aren't as interesting information as you think they are.
It will circle the Earth about every 2 hours. So there are many convenient orbits we can try to reach when sending up a satellite. Here is some of the information about outer space that the first satellites radioed back to Earth.
Dang, hang on. So we are about to learn like some of the first info we learned from space, or at least the Americans learned. I imagine the Soviets might have learned this stuff a little bit before us, but I think this is still interesting that we're learning it for the first time.
Space that the first satellites radioed back to Earth. Danger from meteor impact, very slight.
That's funny. That's funny how, like, yeah, we didn't quite know if there were just going to be, like, rocks floating around or anything. So, like, we were just worried about that. But luckily there aren't. That's funny. I like that. Again, that's a preservation of, like, the mindset that the people had during this time. And the mindset they had was, I don't actually know what outer space is like. Which is different from my mindset because I live in the 21st century. You know, it's just like, this is giving us a glimpse into how little these people truly knew back then. Which hopefully allows us to appreciate their accomplishments even more. Like, they are the ones who figured this out. Like, I've never been to outer space, but I know there aren't just rocks drifting up, like, over our sky like that because of these guys, you know?
Density of air at high altitudes, greater than expected. Temperatures extremely hot and cold on the outer surfaces of the satellite, but inside 50 to 80 degrees. A comfortable range for man.
That is interesting that they noted that it was both very cold and very hot on the outside. Because, yeah, if the satellite is pointed towards the sun, like, they are just getting sun for as long as that is pointed in that direction. So, like, yeah, you will get extreme heat on the sunny side and you will get extreme cold on the shaded side.
Danger from radiation in space, much greater than expected.
Dang, that's funny too. We didn't... That makes a lot of sense, though. I feel like we didn't know how much radiation our sun was putting out. So it's very interesting that we learned that very early, because that must have been pretty disappointing to learn, honestly. Like, oh, there's so much radiation out in space. Like, we're going to have to build things so much more complicated now. You know, like, we can't just build submarines for space. Submarines don't have to worry about radiation, but spacecraft do. So it's another added complexity to space travel that doesn't exist for other forms of frontier exploration. Which, again, is why this is cool to watch immediately after watching the Sea Lab, right? Because we get to compare the differences between sea exploration and space exploration.
This is the kind of information which was monitored from the first satellite's radio signals.
Again, I got so much respect for every person we see too, right? Like, these are all scientists on the bleeding edge of technology. Like, these are all people who are pushing our understanding. Every single one of them, in one way or another, is advancing our ability for spacefaring, you know? Like, that's so incredible. The fact that it's black and white and we're learning about spacefaring, you know? I can't communicate how amazing that is enough.
Do satellites have practical uses?
Dude, I can't get over how shiny they made the Earth look. Like, it really does look like a droplet of water. That's so funny because it doesn't look like that. I guess they're maybe trying to imitate the clouds with these white things instead of the reflections of the stars, but either way, it doesn't quite work. But again, that just illustrates like how little we knew about what the Earth looked like from this perspective.
One suggestion is that several of them, equipped with television cameras, can report continuously on worldwide weather conditions.
That's so funny because, like, yeah, what a simple idea, but I feel like we still don't have, like, a constant live feed of Earth from space. You know, maybe we do, maybe I just, like, have not looked for it, but I feel like these ideas still are yet to truly be made good on. No, we probably have that already, though. Like, I bet we do have that sort of thing. That's at least how we track the weather, but I don't know if we actually have maps. No, we do have maps. Yeah, I take that back.
They can also be used to rebroadcast television to the whole world at once. But this is only the beginning.
I love how that's the application. Like, that is why we wanted to get into space, is to broadcast television, you know? Like, obviously that's not why we wanted to get into space, but that was like one of the clearest actual like uses of our presence in space, was just to give everyone television. Which I guess from a certain perspective really means opening up communications to be global. You know, making global communication possible. That was probably the higher goal to achieve on their list.
Already, rockets have taken animals into space to prepare for the day when man himself will make the trip.
See, I think that's a very interesting concept, is to just bring an animal. Like, again, we didn't even know if animals could survive being in space, so we had to bring them before we brought humans. I understand that. Again, it's a little bit of a shame for the ones that didn't make it, but like, it's so funny to think of an animal going to space, you know? Like, there were literal animals like dogs in space, like before humans were, you know? Like, that's so funny that like the first animal that went to space wasn't even a human, you know? It's just there's a lot to be said about that. I guess the first ones were rats. We probably sent rats first. Like, just what are these rats even thinking? You know, like, I feel like animals from Earth don't even have like a concept of outer space or being in outer space. So like, how freaked out must these mice have been?
These films, taken in an actual rocket during a trip into space, prove that mice can survive launching.
Dang, that's crazy though. We are watching mice in space. This is footage from space. Not only from space, this is footage of living mice in space continuing to be alive. You know, like, this is the footage that convinced us that we could send people. Ironically, only mice surviving, but I guess we sent other animals as well. It's just like this is such a seminal moment in space travel, when we learned that we could go to space. Like, before this, we didn't even know if we could go to space, but after sending animals, we were like, oh yeah, like, there is nothing in the way for us to go to space. Like, we learned that we could go to space by doing this. So it's so incredible, and it's crazy footage too. Again, I feel a little bit sad for these mice, but like, they also had the ride of a lifetime.
And can stand conditions of weightlessness caused by zero gravity, as shown here by the floating ball.
That's, again, so interesting that we're getting to see what a mouse does in zero G. Like, from a psychological, like, behavioral standpoint, this is very interesting as well, because this mouse has no idea what it's doing. It thinks it's just free falling, you know? So it's very interesting to see its behavior just generally.
Men have been dropped out of high-flying bombers and rocket aircraft to probe extremely high altitudes and high speeds. In a new field of research called space medicine,
Space medicine, that's interesting. See, like, again, I love learning about these little things. What is space medicine?
men are being tested for the hardships of rocket acceleration and other difficulties.
Oh, this machine, yeah, we've all seen this machine. Who was it? Was it Destin from Smarter Every Day who, like, nearly passed out? Or was that another machine? I think Derek from Veritasium did one of these. It was one of those channels. But yeah, I definitely know about these machines.
They may encounter in space travel.
This is, again, just so interesting how we're figuring out every aspect of going to space before we actually do it. You know, like, we're figuring out how many G's the human body can experience without just passing out. I think what I find so amazing is what we're watching is what we learned from it. You know, like, this is what NASA took away from it, is this thing that we're watching as well. We are seeing the exact information that the people studying it saw as well, and we can make the same conclusions that they made. I know I say this all the time, but it really is incredible that we get to watch this happening. I also love how nonchalant this guy looks while he's in this thing. Like, he doesn't even look stressed. He looks like he's just sitting in a regular chair, not moving at all. If it weren't for his hair moving in the wind, I would think that he wasn't moving.
We have designed spacesuits to keep up the pressure.
Dang, see, that's again what I love about this is the early space suit. Like, imagine this is what our astronauts looked like. Like, I love getting to see the prototypes, like before we even figured out what was best, you know? Like that's the true insight here is like the learning process that like this entire organization, NASA, went through in order to put people on the moon. Like this is the very first, maybe not the very first mock-up or prototype of a spacesuit, but like this is the early spacesuit that we ended up not going with. You know, we probably iterated on this a few hundred more times before the final product that we've all seen before. You know, like this is such a good glimpse at an early mock-up of a spacesuit. It's so interesting. The helmet is so interesting too. It's all so funny.
Pressure on the body to withstand extreme temperatures.
Like the tubes going around his body, like it's I wish I knew how to explain why this is so interesting to me, because it really is just so cool getting to see technology before it is truly in its final form.
To feed in oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide.
Dude, and how sick of the suit. Like, it looks pretty cool. It looks kind of silly also, but like, the helmet looks silly, but the suit kind of looks cool, or at least that's my opinion. But seeing the actual tubes that are carrying air, like, again, that's so cool.
We are testing men under many conditions that they may eventually have to face in space travel.
Again, what is going through this guy's head right now? You know, like, I'm so curious, like, what these guys thought the future was going to be like. You know, they must have thought that space travel was going to advance, like, so much more rapidly than it actually ended up doing. Like, it's such a shame, but, like, seeing how fast we actually came up with all this stuff, too, it's like, wow, we really were just gung-ho on going to space at some point in time. It's a shame things have changed since then. Dang, what a crazy helmet too. I hope this is like a real Air Force helmet, not just like an astronaut helmet, but like something that the fighter jets would wear, or the fighter pilots would wear as well.
Already, many plans are being advanced for the coming age of man in space.
Dang, and here we get an illustration of what we thought a spacesuit was gonna look like. See, that's so funny too, because again, this is before spacesuits had ever actually existed for real. So this is just like an artist's interpretation of what a spacesuit might look like, which again, they're not that far off to be honest, but it's not exactly what we ended up with, which is just like, it's interesting to see how creative people were before there was an image in their mind for what this was supposed to be. You know, like this is created before anyone knew what a spacesuit was supposed to look like. So we're getting to see some true creativity here.
One plan calls for prefabricated parts to be shot into orbit, to be assembled there into a giant space platform.
See, look at the crazy stuff we were planning all the way back then. Like, we really thought we were just gonna do this within, like, the next 10 years. Like, just build a huge space base like this. Like, that's part of, like, what makes this so fun, too, is, like, just seeing humans' ambition, you know? Knowing that we didn't get this far, or we haven't gotten this far yet, but just knowing that we wanted to get this far, that we already had it in our minds that we could build, like, stations out in space, you know? Like, that's so amazing.
It will include a great hollow wheel about 250 feet across, pressurized inside, with living quarters.
Like, we already had everything thought out, like a hollow wheel. Like, this is straight out of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, I'm pretty sure they studied this program or these materials in order to come up with their designs, because this really is just like so on point for what we need to build for this sort of stuff to work. It's incredible how they already know what a lot of this stuff is going to look like. Even though we haven't even built stuff like this yet in today's day and age. It's just crazy.
And working space. This wheel will spin around 3 times a minute. The force of this motion will furnish a kind of substitute gravity for the people inside.
I also love how imitating gravity is like our first priority. Like, we didn't even think we could get anything done floating around, you know, like we have to build something for us to have gravity there. Like, I just find that so funny that we were prioritizing a structure that would have recreated Earth's gravity. It's just like, that's not exactly what being in space is about, you know? Like, you're gonna have to get used to zero gravity if you want to go space exploring, you know? I think it's funny. But maybe not. Maybe for like long expeditions, it does make a lot of sense to have like Earth gravity simulated for, you know, your bone strength or whatever. But it's funny that we're already thinking about having these habitable pods that recreate Earth's gravity. It's just like, it's so advanced for the period that it's coming from.
There will be storage tanks for food, water, and other materials. Power may come from solar mirrors focused onto boilers.
Oh, I was about to ask what these are. So these are solar mirrors. Again, like that's a technology that we have and that we're working on now, but it's so amazing to know that we already had that back then. So I guess this dish is reflective and it directs the light towards the center and then it heats that up. That's so funny that like that's what we thought was going to power our space machines, was solar like concentrators instead of solar panels, you know? That's very, again, interesting. That illustrates how little we actually did know about what the future of space travel was going to be like.
Indeed, it may be possible to focus solar mirrors onto parts of the Earth to influence weather conditions there.
See, again, like they were already like deep into science fiction with these ideas. Like we're already like playing with Earth's climate from space all the way back in the 1950s, you know, or at least we're having ideas about doing it. It's crazy that everyone back then had the same ideas that we still have now. Like obviously this is where those ideas came from. It's just like these ideas haven't really advanced further than this either. It would be crazy to make like a space laser that you could just direct sunlight into like a point on the Earth somewhere. That is like kind of crazy to think about.
Here in outer space is a natural vacuum for scientific experiments.
What I am impressed by is the depiction of the space suits and the cords that have to keep them connected to the space station. I think we actually can disconnect from the space station, but it's good that they were thinking about that, you know, that they were thinking that these people still needed access to air. It's impressive the amount of thought that went into this art.
Bigger and better than any man has been able to create on Earth.
Dang, this might be the thumbnail right here. I don't know, this is like a pretty abstract thumbnail, but I think this also is like a really cool shot right here. Like you see just the rim of the Earth and then the moon behind it. This is a really cool shot, but I don't know if it really reads as a thumbnail, but maybe. I guess you guys will know before I do.
Here, beyond the interference of the Earth's atmosphere, is an ideal observatory that astronomers...
Just look at this spaceship for a minute. Like, can we just appreciate that we thought we were gonna make this spaceship within like the next 10 to 20 years? You know, like we still haven't made something like this nowadays. Like, yeah, we have the ISS, yeah, the Chinese have their space station, but like, there's nothing like this. Like, I guess you could argue this is pretty much the same as the ISS, but like, this is different, I don't know.
Here, beyond the interference of the Earth's atmosphere, is an ideal observatory that astronomers have long hoped for. In outer space, we can build a spaceship entirely different from any known on Earth.
See, the fact that they're even thinking about building spaceships in space already, like they really did think everything through. Like I'm so impressed by them. They must have been so excited working on this sort of stuff too. Like to actually be convinced that this stuff was going to happen within like an observable time frame is just like, I would have been motivated to work as well. If I thought this was going to be the result of my work, hell yeah. Like that's so cool. They must have been so disappointed when it didn't end up getting this far. But you know what? I bet NASA still has like plans for all this. Or if not plans for it, they have the plans. Like somebody did draw all of this up and somebody did come up with this. I don't know if they're ever going to build one, but I bet they still have like scientific schematics of the concept of this at least.
Since this ship will not have to contend with the Earth's thick atmosphere and strong gravity. With this kind of ship, we may be able to explore far into our solar system.
Yeah, again, like far into our solar system. What's crazy is that like we already have explored far into our solar system. Like the exploration really is like outside of our solar system. I guess that's the difference though. I guess back then they didn't understand how not boring our solar system was, but how lifeless our solar system was. Like people back then still sort of thought that there might have been life on the moon or on Mars. So they didn't quite know that we weren't going to find very much, but it's cool anyway.
These are some of the plans being advanced for the coming space age.
For the coming space age. See, again, the fact that they recognized the space age was coming even. Like, they knew that the whole way that the world existed was going to shift based on our interactions with space. And the fact that the space age still hasn't quite arrived yet is just so bizarre. We are still in the very earliest phase of the space age, which is just so crazy.
Fantastic? Who can say? Wouldn't our present uses of electricity...
This might be the thumbnail too. This is a pretty good shot. Even though this is like not really related to much, like this is still pretty cool. I think this gets the idea of space across a lot better too.
...have seemed fantastic when electricity was first discovered? We have entered the space age. Where we go from here, only man's imagination and ingenuity will tell.
Wow, I like that. We have entered the space age. Only man's ingenuity and imagination will determine where we go. Like that is very true. Like we are capable of getting to any place that we want to go. It more depends on whether or not we can muster the energy and the money to get us there, you know? That was cool. So that's the end. So Encyclopedia Britannica Films gratefully acknowledges the cooperation of the following organizations: the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Air Force, the Jet Propulsion Lab. That's funny because that's still around. The Aerojet General Corporation. That's interesting as well. I don't think that's still around, or at least not under the same name. Maybe, but I've just never heard of that. And then the Convair Astronautics. I wonder what that even is. Maybe that's like the people who make the suits or whatever, but it's a very interesting list of organizations to acknowledge right here. This is maybe the most impressive list of organizations to ever help somebody. Okay, so that was the end. Wow. All right. So what we can see from this is just how much we imagined we'd be doing in space. Like they said it, the space age has just begun. And it's just like they really did think that the work they were doing in these shots was going to revolutionize the world into the space age, which I still don't think we're fully in yet. Like we're going to space, but we're not really using space. Like I guess we're using satellites and GPS and that sort of stuff, maybe Starlink or whatever, but like we're still not going to space and we're still really not doing much in space that doesn't also relate to us on Earth. You know, I don't quite know if the space age is in full effect quite yet. Like we definitely got started back then, but I don't know if we're at the place where they thought we would be at this time. Like if you told these people how far along we are now in the year 2025, I think they would be very disappointed in us, to be honest. I think they would be really shocked by how little we took advantage of the infinite resources that are in outer space. I feel like in this time there was so much optimism for that sort of stuff, and I feel like that's kind of withered away in the years since. But you know what? It's good to see that it does exist, or it did exist back then, you know? That's what makes these programs so valuable, is they preserved our vision of the past and the future. Like we are preserving what we thought the future would once look like through this, you know, like that's so incredible that we're getting a glimpse into what we wanted the space age to be, and that we've sort of made good on some of it, but we haven't fully embraced the space age quite yet. That's what I'm deciding based on this. Based on how far we thought things were going to go, I don't think we've gone to the full extent of the space age, truly. But yeah, this was fascinating because this really is the era that science fiction was becoming just science, you know? Like I tried to come up with a more clever way of saying that, but like that really is what's happening, is people are being inspired by the stories like Jules Verne's of Trip to the Moon, and we are actually making real technology to make that a reality. I really think this was a very special time in humans' history. I feel like thousands of years from now, we'll still be looking back at this time as like the time that things were about to change. You know, like you have to think about the human civilizations that have existed in space for thousands of years in the future, right? Like all of them still have this moment to thank for that. Like this is the moment that we are taking our first steps into space. And so whatever happens in the future of humanity, whatever civilizations we end up establishing on other planets or other worlds, like this is still the origin of all of that. So we are really getting to see the advancement that will like carry humanity into all of the future, really. The only real comparison I could even make is like watching a caveman discovering fire or discovering like stone tools. You know, like that's what we're watching right here. We are watching basic monkey animals figuring out how to go into outer space and travel around the galaxy. You know, like it's so incredible. It's so amazing the amount of information and technology that they are using for all these things. It's all incredible. I am very happy that we watched this. I hope you guys are too. I could speak for hours about this, so I'm going to cut it here. We're definitely going to watch more space programs in the future though. Don't worry about that. I've got plenty more. But for now, if you enjoyed and you would like to help support this channel and what I do here, you can follow the link in the description that'll take you over to the Internet Archive. The Internet Archive is where I get all of these old programs from. So if you want to support me, donate to them. And with that, I think we are ready to cut to black.